moved right on.
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vidette Locke. I am the Director of Bus Transportation. We are excited to see all the wonderful faces here. Thank you for coming out. We're definitely looking for the engagement and the feedback. Thanks for coming out to hear the information that we are going to be providing to you on today. Definitely interaction is good, and thanks for coming out. With that being said, what is Network Redesign trying to do? We are redesigning our network to reflect on people's needs and where to go. A couple of technical and goals that we want to share with you today is to identify and reduce inefficiencies in the system. Also, we look to improve regional connectivity and to coordinate transit services in the MARTA service area. We're going to share some hypothetical concepts with you today, and we definitely look for your feedback, which this is going to be a pivotal moment for all of bus transportation. This is a quote from the general manager. This is a quote from the general manager. If he could be here today, he would. I'm not going to read the quote to you, but it's a testament to show how important this project is to the MARTA team. It is top down. What's important to share with you today is that everyone is aware of the expansion program, the state of good repair efforts. This project is critically important just as well. And it's an opportunity for generational opportunities. With that being said, I am going to hand off to Tim Casa, who is going to go into great details about the project. Tim?
Thank you for that. Let's see. I'm trying to advance the slide, but okay. Okay. Bear with me. Let's see. I'm going to bring up the anticipated schedule. Thanks for your patience. Okay. Wow. That's jumping. Okay. When the screen catches up, so while the screen is pulling up, there it is on the screen. This is an anticipated timeline. I can't stress enough the word anticipated because the schedule is going to be very flexible. The dialogue with the community, the feedback that we want to hear from you will drive the process. What that schedule lays out is what the upcoming milestones are, as well as what we have completed to date. As you can see, we have analyzed existing conditions, and where we are currently in the middle is establishing alternatives, which I'm going to spend a good bit of today talking about two concepts in terms of how to approach redesigning the bus network. This is the first public meeting. So we are at the beginning of the public involvement process. And if you look at the screen, you can see there are future dates and time points where we will be having additional rounds of public input. But the key here, I just want you to know, we're at the beginning of the public process. It's very flexible. We want to get it right, and this is a huge opportunity, and we want to take our time to do it, to get all the input and the coordination as possible. Before I actually discuss with you those two concepts that I want to get your thoughts on and your feedback, let's define access. So let's just take a fictional person. She's in the middle of the network, as you can see. What do we mean when we say access? What we're talking about is access to opportunity. And if you see those icons around our person in the middle, that black dot in the middle, that's our person, that's our fictional traveler. And if you look at those icons surrounding her, you have different destinations to go to work, to worship, entertainment, recreation, to shop. What does that mean in terms of how accessible those destinations are? So if you look at the screen, you see that gray shaded area? That's to represent all these destinations that are within a 45-minute travel time. You may have a plethora of destinations, but which ones can you get to within that 45-minute time frame? That's where you make your decision. Okay, I can do the following on this trip. That's what's going to drive this. So when you take all those destinations that I referenced earlier, now look at the ones, count the ones that fall within that gray shaded area. Those are the ones that we can say our traveler has access within a 45-minute travel time to these destinations. Now, the reason I'm taking my time in defining access, because the future slides are going to talk about access and how those two concepts impact access and approaches of redesigning the network. So just simply for this one, before we move on, if you count the number of schools, jobs, and shopping, that gives you a good metric of how accessible these destinations are. Okay. Let's see. This next slide is a real-life example. So the purple shaded area it represents the destinations where our traveler can get to within an hour. So keep that purple shaded area in mind. So that black dot, in case anyone is wondering, that sits at the intersection of Sylvan Road and Cleveland Avenue. Now, this is just an example, but I wanted to go from that fictional graph to an actual real-life example using the August 2019 bus network. So this is how the network looks today. That purple shade is just your hour travel shed. So we spent a little time talking about access. What happens when you improve access? What are the outcomes? What are the benefits when you take a traveler's access and you improve it? Here's just to name a few. You attract more riders, you contribute to expanded opportunity, and you expand personal freedom. So you see that gray shaded area, right? What I would like for you all to take away is when you improve access, that gray blob, that gray shaded area expands. So now you have more opportunities, more destinations at your fingertips that you can get to. What I'm going to go to in the next slide is different ways of guaranteeing access and the trade-offs. Here are those two concepts that I was referring to. Now, you'll see in the other slides, sometimes I'll use the word concepts, sometimes I'll use the word goal. It's the same thing. So, ridership and coverage. You'll see in the subsequent slides, what they're showing you are scenarios. If we went 100% on either goal, this is how the network will look. But I think everybody in this room can attest to it's very rare that you only have one goal when you're trying to do something. You have competing goals, and you have to actually allocate and prioritize what do I want to place more emphasis on. So But for today's conversation, we're going to make, in the make-believe world, we're going to pretend we're going 100% full throttle on either spectrum. So I'm going to show you a ridership and a coverage, keeping in mind this is assuming we're not trying to achieve any other goal. But just for the sake of dialogue and just to kind of get you to start thinking, what are good ways to redesign the bus network? So this, I know you may be saying, he comes up with a lot of fictional make-believe. Here's another fictional town. Just bear with me. So you see the dots on the map, and you see how they're all scattered across, but along the two lines that goes north and south, they are clustered. Those cluster of dots, those dots, first of all, represent people and places, and that represents density. You have dots all about the map, right? So those are places and people, but this is showing you density. So I'm getting you prepared for these next few slides so you can keep in mind density, overall network. Keep those in mind while we're going through it. So this fictional town has 18 buses, right? And like I said, the dots are the locations and residents. If we go to our first scenario, ridership. Okay, remember, we're assuming that ridership is our only goal. We're just pretending, but this is to get you to talk, to get you to think about it. If ridership were your sole goal, you will focus service that generates the most ridership for the least cost. That means high frequency in places that are dense, walkable, and it gets service to most residents and jobs, but not all. I want to take a moment. Let's go back to this map. You see how dark and clustered those routes are? You have 9 buses, 9 on Route A and 9 buses on Route B. Those buses are serving where the most people and places are located. But you also see where service is not going. This is giving you an idea. If you go 100% ridership, you're going to focus on density. Let's go to the next one of coverage. You would think I have this down packed yet, but okay. With coverage, I want to tell you, these two goals, they're completely opposite one another. One focuses on frequency, one focuses on expanding service. But we all know there could be a combination. I'll get to a later slide to tell you how the existing network, how it's structured. But we're just having a hypothetical here. If coverage was your sole goal, you would spread service out. You'll have a lot of routes, but they will run less frequently. So you remember our previous slide? I'm nervous to go back there because I don't want to mess it up. But you remember the first one had 2 routes, A and B, 9 on each. This one, you're able to extend that service. Now you have 9 different routes. You're still servicing those original corridors, but you're also spreading, what I call spreading the peanut butter. You are spreading the service out along the network. This gets some service to as many residents and jobs as possible. And to recap, more routes going to more places, but a lot few buses to the high density corridors. Look how many buses are going on that, where those cluster of dots are. It's not a lot of routes going there because you have made the decision in this scenario, I want to expand coverage. So that's the trade-off, just ridership and coverage. Another key element here, when you decrease frequency, you have longer wait times. The service will come, the bus will get there, but it will equate to having longer wait times. This is the type of feedback we're going to need from the community to understand what is that pressure point, what's that sweet spot, what is too long to wait. I'm going to get to that later on, but I'm just trying to plant the seeds for you to think about as we go along. So let's just recap our two goals: ridership and coverage. Again, both are important. I don't think anybody in this room can say ridership is not important. I don't think anybody in this room can say coverage isn't important. Both are important. What we need from you is to understand, how should we prioritize them? Should we put more emphasis on either? Should we mix? Should it be 50-50? There are a number of ways that you can approach this. But just a quick recap: ridership, more access for many people, but not everyone. Higher ridership with its economic and environmental benefits. Let's compare that to coverage. With coverage, you get some service for as many people as possible. You serve more people to whom transit is the only option, and you serve more jurisdictions. I'm getting this clicker down packed. I'm kind of excited about that. And just as I said that,
Yep.
so I'm just going to keep it basic and go back. So, if you will, you know what I was saying, like, isn't it rare to have one goal when you're trying to solve a problem or trying to do something? You typically have competing goals. So I want you to start thinking about it in that spectrum: ridership and coverage. Should we move the needle more toward coverage? Should we move it more toward ridership? There's no wrong answer. The right answer is your honest feedback. We need to hear how you want this bus network redesigned. So to start things off, going back to the August 2019 bus network, that's our baseline. And what I'm going to do in these next few slides is compare how the coverage goal compares to the base network, how the ridership goal compares to the base network, so you can see what the trade-offs are, what the pluses and minuses are. So let's do a quick overview of the 2019 bus network. You have 110 routes. 8 of those have 15-minute frequency or better. So I know that map is kind of small, and I apologize, but if you look at the red, those are the 15-minute or better frequency routes. So let's keep that in mind while we compare this base network to each approach. Coverage. So remember, with coverage, we're trying to expand, we're trying to extend our service. Here you have 108 routes compared to the original 110. You still are able to maintain the 8 routes with 15 minutes frequency. But here's the trade-off. When you extend service, you're able to go into new areas. You're able to go to Johns Creek, for example, Flat Shoals Parkway, and Arbor Ridge. Remember, with coverage, you are spreading the service. Now let's go to ridership. Ridership is the total opposite. You had 110 routes in the base network. Now you have 52. Remember, because we're focusing on the dense areas where the people and the places are. So you go down from 110 to 52 routes. But those 15-minute frequency routes, they triple. You had 8, now you have 25. And the trade-off, you have reduced coverage. But what you lose in coverage, you gain in frequency. Okay, what does all this mean? Let's talk about what each concept achieves: ridership and coverage, and give you pluses, minuses, the trade-offs, all of the above. And remember, this is assuming once you choose ridership, you're not trying to achieve any coverage. When you're trying to achieve coverage, you're not trying to achieve ridership. This is just a scenario. This is hypothetical. This is not a real-life scenario. This is just to generate dialogue so you can kind of keep the extremes in your mind. So thank you for bearing with me. When we look at the number of jobs accessible, if you remember that first slide I was telling you that lady in the middle of the network, and I started showing you were the places of worship, her job, places of entertainment and shopping. The job access gains, this is what this graphic is telling you. The job access gains between the baseline, which is the August 2019 network, and the coverage approach are relatively small. Where you see the most access gains is in the ridership concept. This is the result of more frequency that reduces the time you're waiting for the bus, both initially and in transfers. So let's talk about this map. And it went too far, I'm sorry. So the green represents gains in job access. The yellow represents loss in job access gains. So the more green you see, that means you're gaining job access. The yellow and brown, you're losing. So with coverage, job access losses tend to be in the denser places, because remember, with coverage, you are trying to spread out service. The denser areas are not your focus. The new areas get served, where the denser are not as served as would it be in ridership, what I'll show you later. And it causes gains on the fringes and periphery. So you see where the yellow and the brown are concentrated. They're not in the core where it's most dense. That's because you're trying to spread out coverage. So I think hopefully everybody's understanding now, where you go for one, you lose in the other. And that's the balancing act of how to mix it. Let's look at ridership. Now you see ridership, you see a lot of green in that one. Job access losses tend to be in the denser places. I'm in the wrong slide, sorry. Let me rephrase that. With ridership, job access gains are focused in the denser, higher quality activity places, because that's where you concentrate in service, while the edges is where you're seeing the losses. Remember, the edges are where the less dense places are, and your denser places are in the core, where that dark green and the shades of green are located. Here's another way of looking at access is percentage of residents live within a quarter mile of service. Now you may ask, what's the significance of quarter of a mile? Quarter of a mile represents an easy walking distance to transit. The ridership concept, if you see, the ridership concept almost doubles in terms of percent 15-minute or better frequent routes of frequency service, compared to 5% in coverage, 5% in the August 2019 network. Keeping with that, let's discuss what this graphic is also telling us. With the ridership, you're getting a lot of high frequency service. Oh man, thank y'all. I was getting too excited. Thank y'all. What this graphic is showing you, while having a lot of high frequency service, the ridership also has a reduction in the total number of people served. You may still have access when you have the ridership goal, but you have to walk further for the high frequency. Remember, the ridership is saying we're going to concentrate on service in the denser areas. So you still have access, but you may have to walk further to get to those frequent services. So where you lose in terms of walking further, you gain in shorter wait times. I hope you all are not tired of seeing this graphic, but if you are, I will tell you, this is the last time you to see the graphic, because this is my last slide. But I want to leave you with this. We've talked about ridership, we've talked about coverage, we've talked about its respective trade-offs. Here's what it comes down to. As you think about, should the network lean more toward coverage? Should it lean more toward ridership? It's coming down to this: do you want more frequency, or do you want more places? And that's what it comes down to. And I appreciate your time and your patience with my clicking malfunctions. I'm going to turn it over to Erica Pines. She will close out the meeting.
All right, welcome everybody. Glad to have you with us this afternoon. I know this was a lot of information for you to take in a short period of time. We do want to let you know that we have a website. I'll give you that website for you to take a survey. But as far as our next steps, we want to continue to hear from you. Remember, this is the first phase. No decisions have been made. We just want to present you this information, allow you the opportunity to digest it, and give us some feedback as we move into the further phases of this project. So we're going to have another meeting here this evening. If you want to come back tonight, welcome. If you know folks who are working right now and couldn't be here today that needs to be a part of this conversation, send them here. And this meeting is also being streamed live on our YouTube channel. So if you know people that just can't attend a public meeting, send them to our YouTube channel so that they can digest this information. We will canvass the system. We don't want it just to be people that can come to meetings. We need to get onto the system, talk to our riders, talk to people who use the system, whether they use the system every day or whether they're just a occasional entertainment type rider. But we want to get feedback from everyone, so we will be canvassing the system. We also reaching out to our stakeholders. We have stakeholders involved in this process. We have our jurisdictional partners. You know, we represent 4 jurisdictions, so we're trying to make sure that everybody has access to this information. We're going to have the survey up on our website, and I'll give you that site address shortly. That website will be up until January 15th. As I mentioned, we're going to be back here tonight, and then we're going to move to the east side. We're going over to Decatur on Thursday, and then Saturday afternoon, we're going up to Dunwoody for another public meeting. So if you know people that want to be engaged in this process, please send them to our public meetings. Once we close this out, the first phase with the survey and just getting general feedback, it's important that we hear from you. It's important that we hear from our stakeholders and our jurisdictional partners. We're going to close that survey on January 15th. So once we close that survey, we're going to look at it, and then we're going to come back and do an additional round of questions and answers based on your feedback. So I just went through that slide. And our next thing that we want you guys to do, we do have a website, MARTA 2040 nextgenbus.com. You will have access to that site. Go to that site, provide your feedback and input, and let us know what outcomes you would expect from the network redesign. Share the presentation, share the website with your network, and also if you have questions that we don't answer today, please email us at busnetwork@itsmarta.com. That's busnetwork@itsmarta.com. I see some of you trying to write that down. We'll give it to you before you leave, and it's also on this fact sheet. If you're watching from home, we will have the fact sheets up on the YouTube site. And just let us know what your feedback is, because as you see, we're trying to do something that is budget neutral. We're trying to figure out what you all want. Do you want a ridership concept, or do you want us to focus on a coverage concept? And with that being said, I'll open it up for the next 15 minutes for Q&A. And I see Miss Sherry. Hey, Sherry. I know you have a bunch of questions. We're ready for you. Okay. Yes. And if I could have Ezekiel come up, because I think you'll have to answer a lot of these questions. Do we have another chair? Let's get a chair for. Okay, yep. Ezekiel, you can get here. Yep, you can get this one.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today to get information from the community. I'm Sherry Williams, and I live right here in the Campbellton Road corridor. and you give us a choice between ridership and coverage. And I say to you, we should not have to choose between ridership and coverage. You know that Atlanta has a unique aging population. We are #1 in the nation for aging individuals. With that in mind, we cannot fit the model that you just presented us. When you did, and when you have to periodically consolidate bus stops, we understand that the less stops you have, the less stops the bus has to make, and the more efficient the bus is moving down the street. But an example of consolidating bus stops without understanding the population you serve is chaos. There is a gentleman who lives 2 blocks from his bus stop on Campbellton Road. When you consolidated his bus stop, that was a half a block away from where it was very difficult for him. He has a very difficult time walking, and he's on a walker, and he does not qualify for MARTA mobility. So while you have to consolidate bus stops, we get that. For this individual, it's an extreme hardship. So there are exceptions to all the rules. What do you say to someone like my mother, who is 82 years old, has lived in the same house since 1963, and moved there because it was 3 houses from the number 57 Collier Heights? She did not drive and has 6 children. What do you do? So uniqueness of Atlanta, it has hills, it has curves, it does not have enough sidewalks. So everything that you presented here today is wonderful, but it really and truly does not fit the population for which it is trying to serve. So I challenge you to find the funding for this bus redesign the same way you have found funding for the Beltline. We in the underserved areas, like the number 83 Campbellton Road bus, the second highest volume in ridership in the entire MARTA system. 80% of the people that ride that bus do not have cars. So when you change from ridership to coverage, it is a hardship. So how do you handle that? That's my question. Sorry for the dialogue.
No problem.
I got you. Thank you.
First, I would like to say thank you for your comment. Thank you very much for coming out today. Your voice is being heard, and it's important that you say your piece and that you tell us your truth, and I do appreciate that. I think that you're right. I wish that we could have more funding, and that this wasn't a budget neutral exercise. Unfortunately, that's what we've been given, a budget neutral exercise. I do think that when you speak about the hardships of those who have difficulty walking and mobility challenges, that you're probably thinking more about a coverage concept that goes more places, that has shorter walk times, and that's important feedback, and that's something we want to hear, that coverage is important. And I will let you know that even in the coverage concept where we spread things out, Campbellton Road, and we'll have the opportunity to look at these maps in more detail in the final 15 minutes, that Campbellton Road is still every 15 minutes in the midday. So those really, really important corridors, like a Campbellton Road, like a Buford Highway, those corridors are still going to be high frequency, even in a coverage concept, because we understand these very top performing corridors, they need this service. And so those corridors, even when we spread stuff out, we're not spreading it out to the extent where a corridor like Campbellton would have infrequent service. But I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Just come to the mic, please, if you can. And if you just give your name, that would be great. Thank you.
is Catherine Kirkland, and I'm on the 40 bus, which goes down Peachtree and goes to West End. We have a lot of seniors too, so I agree with a lot of things that she was saying. But for us, our bus only runs every 45 minutes, and there's only 2 buses. And it's right in front of a senior building, so we get to go out there, but it's just a bench. The other side has a big shelter. I think we should have that because we're the seniors, but I don't know if it's big enough or whatever. But that 45 minutes, it ends up being an hour or more because the bus is always late. Or there's no driver most of the time, and I ride the bus quite a bit. Most of the time, it's only one bus. There's only 2, but it's only one, which means we have to wait 90 minutes. And, that can be a concern, for us, because you really kind of got to map everything out, because the MARTA itself, the train runs pretty good. But when you get to that, getting there from the 40, it becomes very difficult for us, and there are a lot of seniors over there. They do have a lot of seniors. That's McDaniel, Fulton, Mechanicsville. We're over that way. And it is a concern that we all talk about it all the time. It used to run every 30 minutes. Then the pandemic came and it started running more often. Then when you started back in April, it became every 45 minutes. So I was wondering if there's a possibility that, there are other seniors in other areas that, we needed as well. I don't know how, often a lot of people ride, but I know a lot of the people in my building ride it. Yeah. So I was concerned about that. Mm-hmm.
Let's give her
Yeah.
customer service also.
Sure.
That's a service issue also.
Sure, yeah. And talking about Route 40, that's actually a really good example of the trade-offs and how these concepts are very different from one another. So Route 40 and again we'll have some boards for us to look at in more detail in the last 15 minutes. But Route 40 in the ridership concept would come every 10 minutes in the midday. So very, very frequent. That's because Peachtree is an extremely dense corridor, and we're consolidating services to those types of corridors. It would be one of, if not the most frequent routes in the system. So the idea is putting that frequent service in dense places, and Peachtree is certainly there. So that would be something that I think you would really like in the ridership concept. And in the coverage concept, because it's so close to that frequent rail that you were talking about, that north-south rail line, in the coverage concept, we actually did not include Route 40 at all because we thought that, you're so close to the frequent rail line, so very different in those two concepts. So we definitely hear what you're talking about. With that infrequent service, you're talking about every 40 minutes that it comes currently, Route 40. That's not frequent. That's spreading the service out. That's more of a coverage model where more places have 40-minute service. So I think you'd be really interested to look at Peachtree in the two concepts. And as far as your other concerns, we can address those through MARTA customer service, because we do understand some of those issues that we're having. But I do want to stay on topic with the network redesign. Okay. But we appreciate your time.
But I was saying too, like with the seniors, so keep us in mind.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and I'm on Route 66, and it runs every, 30 minutes, I think? Yeah, I think every 30 minutes, but yesterday, the 904 bus didn't even show up, and then sometimes I'm in Marketplace, and it takes the bus going to Hamilton E. Homes, from the end of the line to Hamilton E. Homes, it takes, a few times I had to wait an hour, 2 hours for the bus to arrive, so I'm wondering what kind of concept would be appropriate for 66. There are seniors, I'm a senior citizen, and we have disabled people on that route, so what concept would be appropriate for the 66?
I'm trying to remember exactly which corridors are served in which concepts. I believe that Route 66 is definitely in the coverage concept. So if you're talking about that corridor being served, I think the coverage concept serves Route 66. I don't believe that it is served in the ridership concept. But there is, Route 165, which is at Fairburn Road, which has increased frequency and has additional regional connectivity down to Camp Creek, all the way up to Hamilton E. Homes on the 165 and the ridership concept. So again, that's a good trade-off to illustrate that Route 66 might not exist in a ridership concept, whereas it does in a coverage concept, but the trade-off is more frequent service on Fairburn Road with better regional connectivity. So again, I don't know, I'm trying to recall exactly, but I think if you're talking about access that's closer to Route 66, I think that would probably be more, and you would lean towards the coverage. But thank you for your feedback also, and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my
Hello.
name is Rufus Silas, and I have some concerns because you say it's budget neutral, which means you're not putting any more money in it. You're gonna have the same amount of buses, because you started out with a model of 18. So the buses don't change, the money don't change. Why the two extremes? Why couldn't it be a hybrid? Why do we have to go to two extremes? Why can't you just tweak the service and still keep all the routes?
Yeah, good question. And maybe it wasn't quite clear, and I can clarify. These are two concepts just to generate the dialogue. When we come up with a recommended plan, it will be after we hear your feedback. It'll probably be something in the middle. It'll probably be that hybrid when we actually have a draft plan. These were purposefully on the extremes to generate the dialogue and to get people thinking, how can we use the buses? What's your priority? We will likely end up somewhere in the middle, though, and that's a very good point. We don't have to go to an extreme. In fact, if we hear a lot of feedback that, let's keep the balance exactly as it is today, we like the balance, we may not go to farther in either direction. It may end up just being that we try to look for those inefficiencies and maybe just do some small tweaks, like you said. That's important feedback. As much as someone wants radical change, if they want no change, we're very happy to hear that as well. We just want to hear your thoughts. So thank you.
One last question.
Yeah.
What is currently in place today, has anything changed from what we are seeing today coming in the future?
Obviously, things will change. In planning, we plan changes. I don't think anything is set in stone at this point that I know of. Obviously, COVID has done a lot of dynamics. It's been a very fluid situation. So change might be coming, but that's but sort of the big long-term change, that's what we're trying to talk about today.
No, you paused quite a few times. Well, I'm asking you, do you know, speaking to me right now, based on the design that we have in the ridership, is anything due to change?
Maybe I'm not fully understanding the question. I'm
All
sorry.
right, let me simplify like
Sure.
the young man did. We got 10 bus routes today. Next month, will we still have 10 bus routes?
No bus routes are going away that I know of. No bus routes are going away. Coverage is staying until we go through this process and hear from the public and
All right, y'all
decide.
get his name now. See his name?
Thank you, Mr. Silas. Anybody else?
To Sherry and the lady, when I was having those issues clicking through my slides, one point I wanted to make clear, the current system is 65% ridership, 30% coverage. So that tells you how it looks today. So when you go back to that graphic, I was posing to you all, should we move that needle to the right, to the left. So I just want to add that little point of clarification.
Thank you, Tim.
Good morning. It's still morning. My name is Betty Irby, and I work for Georgia Tech. I'm on the second shift, okay? I ride the 71 Cascade. That was 8 buses on 71 route, and I think they cut it down to maybe 4, but that is a busy route too, from the West End all the way to down to Cascade and 285. The bus is always packed. On several occasions, I was at the West End and they passed me up twice. He just throwed his hands up. I saw one person standing up, so I don't know what the problem was. Also, at night on the 68 route from the West End, it leaves at 11:20. So, a couple times last week, the bus did not show up, and we did not have another bus come in. The bus pulled in that goes to Ashby Station, and he said that he will be back around 12 o'clock that night. So I didn't get home until around 12:30 or 1 o'clock. So my question is, on that 71 route, are you gonna put those 8 buses back on schedule?
With regards to the network redesign that we're talking about right now, I believe Route 71 has I believe it's 30-minute service in the midday, so there would be more service than is on there currently. We currently have those 2 branches, that one that goes down to the Ashley Cascade Apartments, and the other one goes to another apartment complex.
Yes.
In both, or I believe in the ridership concept, it actually would go all the way out to Fulton Industrial Boulevard. So you'd have an additional connection out there in the ridership concept. That's one of the benefits of that concept. As far as what's out there today, in some of the operational issues that we've been having, like I said, COVID has thrown a wrench in a lot of things. I don't think we want to be operating the service that we're operating with those operational issues. I think that's something that we can handle through customer service channels. That's a little bit off topic from the bus network redesign, but I appreciate you speaking up, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've been riding MARTA ever since the fare was like 35 cents. So I just want to say, thank you, MARTA. You all doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I saw one, come on, Lynn. And there was one more? Yeah, but you can come up after. Thank you. And then the planners are going to be around, so know that you can go around and ask the questions. And Ms. Badette, if you want to help with some of the operational issues, let's do that. But we're not going anywhere after this. I'll take these last 2 questions, and then the planners will be here with boards to answer your questions. Thank you. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vivian Thomas, and I don't know if this is the right platform for this, but I'm not a rider on the bus, but I walk every morning 5 miles through the neighborhood, Fairburn and Union City. What I've noticed is early in the morning, like about 5 o'clock hour, the lighting is really bad. And there's a new area right at Shannon and Flat Shoals that they've just upgraded with some wall and flowers or whatever. And some of the riders were trying to sit closer to the street on the corner where there was more lighting. I've called in to express some concern about this, but I was on hold longer than I could make myself available. The bus driver said that they should sit at the MARTA seating area that they had, but it's very dark. Who is it, or how do we handle more lighting there? So I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this is the right platform. And since I'm not a writer, maybe my input doesn't really count, but.
No, that matters. And thank you for the feedback as well. We've got firstly, I'll say that we're in touch with the municipalities. We talk about these issues all the time. When they come to us, we definitely want to address them. And we've got amenities planners as well, people who look at installing shelters and additional seating and things. So those folks can coordinate and make sure that if the bus stop is in an unlighted area, maybe it can be moved a little bit to a better lighted area. You know, certain amenities that certain high ridership stops can be installed. We've got an amenities upgrade program where we're installing over 1,000 amenities in the next 5 years to improve situations like the one you're talking about. So we can look at this specific instance, and we definitely will, and I appreciate that. It's a little bit off topic, but we do appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But they did try to move someplace else where it's lighted.
Okay.
And the bus driver told them, no, they had to sit in the place that you made available with the, you know.
Yeah.
And it was very dark there.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so, you know, like I said, yeah, it's off topic, but I did
Sure.
call and I was trying to help out, but.
Sure. No. Thank
And then
you.
I saw your sign, you know, saying this meeting. I said, well, I'll try it that way, but it is something to look at while you guys are upgrading in that
Sure.
area. Shannon and Flat Shoals.
Sure.
I just want to add something to that. If you can talk to me after this meeting, I'd like to hear more about that.
Okay,
There's something I can do behind the scenes.
all right, thank
Okay.
you.
We have one additional question, and then we have a comment from one of our community partners. Come on. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yolanda King Adams. In the brochure or the flyer that has been circulated, it says MARTA is redesigning its bus network. Is MARTA planning on merging with the other transits in the near future, i.e. Cobb, Gwinnett, and the like, in the near future?
Not at this time. That's not part of this project. And
Has it been a consideration?
it's been considered in the past, but I don't think we have any immediate or short-term plans to do so.
Thank you.
Now we have one of our partners in this area who's always been very supportive of our meetings and allowed us to use his space previously. Come on up, Pastor Fleming. You just want to close us out with some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry I was late. Office informed me that you had invited me here. I'm Pastor Timothy Fleming, the pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church for the last 46 years, and we've been in this community for over 30 years. We have hosted many town hall meetings at our church, and you were there a few months ago when you met the community. I'm very happy that the young lady just asked about the lighting. I just left a meeting, and one of the issues that we have, number one, our community, and I was just complaining and fussing to our council lady, our community must be cared for by us. And we are the citizens over here in this community. I pick up trash every day on Camerton Road. My crew is out there now. We keep Camerton Road clean. I pay people. For the last 25 years, I have helped the homeless, gotten them into apartments, and now many of them have gotten jobs at me giving them $125 a week, 3 of them. And now we still pick up from Greenbrier Mall all the way up to MARTA. One of the things that I want our community to look at, what is happening at the Chinese place right across the street. If you will see the trash, the sofas, they complain. I was about to call a press conference about it. And those are things we need to done. We need our community. We know we're happy that you're coming in our community. I think it's $200 million or whatever you have discussed that you're about to do in Campbell Road from MARTA up to Greenbrier. We want more information about what we're going to do about Greenbrier to enhance it, now that Macy's gone, and your input for the lighting. I've been fussing about this for 20 years. When Mr. Campbell widened Campbellton Road for me, he did that trying to attract investors when we had the base open. The base called me and said they were closed. They closed the gate. S&S were there at the time, came to me and said we lost $140,000 when they closed the gate. Mr. Maddox was counsel at the time. We went up there together, tried to get them to open it back. They said the crime, people coming in with drugs. We've lost some very important things in our community. And I feel the pain of our seniors who can't go nowhere They have to stay here. We need lighting. You can't see nobody down Campbellton Road, the dog. And those are things that we really ask that while you are coming, and we welcome you in our community, thanking. I've heard and I understand that T.D. Jakes is putting up way over $400 million with part of the base that tied in with Tyler Perry and other things that even the mayor we didn't win, Cassine had already had a meeting with me talking about the billions and billions of dollars about to come to Atlanta. Atlanta's about to become the #1 city in the world. And so much money is coming here. We want to make sure we get some of it. Now, we do know they're going to try to put an apartment across the street in front of our church. I'm not against anything coming to Campbell Road, but we tired of cess ponds, breathing mosquitoes with another apartments. And that's exactly what it's going to turn into. I asked, why don't they put a gate there and make sure that people coming in and out with no drugs can have a gate? I understand in your last zone meeting, I was a part of it, you brought up the issue about the property next door to our church and as a green space. So I don't know what you plan or might be planning to do with that property. It is adjacent to ours. We have 10 acres of land in the back that we own. Mount Carmel sits on 20 acres of land. So we want to make sure that the people know what you're really going to do for Campbellton Road and how long it's going to take before we see a reality. And one of the first things important is more lighting. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to close out. The mic dropped. If y'all can pull up the slide, if y'all can, with the contact information. I can try to. Yep. So remember, everyone, please visit the website, MARTA2040nextgenbus.com. Also, if you have information or have comments or questions, email busnetwork@itsmarta.com and we'll respond to those. As I mentioned, the planners are going to be around for the next 30 minutes with some boards up. Please understand that these boards are not set in stone. The purpose of this meeting and the purpose of this exercise is to encourage dialogue. The dialogue that you just gave us is very important. We hear you and we want to continue hearing you. So with that being said, we're going to end this portion of the meeting and feel free to walk around and talk to some planners as we move into the next phase. And remember, we'll be back here this evening. Then we're going over to the east side, over to Decatur on Thursday, and then Saturday we're going to move north and go to Dunwoody. But thank you all for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you.